In the name of Deputy John Curran, 30 seconds to put your question.
Minister, you'll be aware that recently the Consumer and Competition Protection Commissioner published a report which found that a quarter of consumers in the Greater Dublin area do not have more than one supplier for their domestic waste, and there's a lack of competition in the market. My question is to you: do you have specific plans to introduce competition to the market in the Dublin area?
Thank you very much, Deputy Minister. A few minutes.
I want to thank the CCPC for the significant body of work that is carried out on this report. The findings of this report clearly support the policy decision that I took to introduce an incentivised pricing model by abolishing flat rate fees rather than a blanket pay-by-kilogram system proposed previously. The report notes that it took 19 years for the policy to be implemented to abolish flat rate fee structures. The report shows that waste collection costs are between 63 and 77 cents per day, and that only 6% of people cite cost as the reason for not having their waste collected. Furthermore, the CCPC acknowledges the work of the Price Monitoring Group, which I established in July of 2017 to monitor prices for consumers offered by the waste sector and to provide oversight of the industry as flat fees were being phased out. It confirms that consumers have seen price stability across the sector over the last 12 months with no evidence of price gouging. It's important to be clear that, as a country, we have zero spare capacity in our landfills today. We now are on the verge of an emergency situation where with nowhere for any extra waste to go. The ban on flat rate fees was necessary to incentivise householders to recycle and compost more and to send less waste to landfill. We've invested €3 million in education and awareness in relation to what goes into your recycling bin and how to use your brown bin effectively. I welcome the fact that the CCPC does not call for a one-size-fits-all type regulatory approach, and that, based on data collection and consultation, different competition models can be introduced for different geographic areas. The nature of the market is complex, as both the CCPC and the PMG have highlighted. Therefore, the findings of the CCC report must be studied with care and diligence to ensure consumer well-being is protected and our environmental goals are met. The hybrid model suggested could help to extend the coverage of door-to-door collections nationwide, while ensuring value for money for the householder and providing certainty for investment by the waste sector. The report, combined with the ongoing work of the PMG and the finalisation of the European Circular Economy Waste and Plastic Legislation Framework, will inform the development of the future waste management policy, including our environmental goals, regulatory and market structures and policy instruments and tools.
I suppose, to be honest, it really didn't address the question, which was about competition in the market. I acknowledge the work that the CCPC did, but the question I'm posing to you is, it clearly found that a quarter of the households in Dublin don't have another alternative to their current supplier. And the concern is, even in areas where there is another supplier, I don't believe there's real competition in the market. Living in an ordinary suburb in Dublin, I can tell you this, Minister, I have auctioneers dropping leaflets in my door, vying for business to sell my house. It's not on the market, they want to sell it. I have pizzerias, I have Chinese takeaways, all vying for business. There is nobody dropping leaflets, canvassing my door. I have utility suppliers, all of them competing for business. But when it comes to waste and refuse domestic collection, there is no apparent competition. Now, while the report found that 1 in 4, a quarter of Dublin, has no actual competition, even in areas where there might be apparent competition, I don't believe it's real, and I don't believe there's transparency in the market, Minister.
Minister?
Yeah, Deputy Curran, the CCPC report stated that where people did transfer, and I think about only 1 in 10 people where there was an alternative did transfer to a competitor, and the average saving was approximately €17 a year. So there aren't the savings there at present in relation to it. As you know, the CCPC is looking at moving away from competition in the market to competition for the market, particularly in areas where there isn't services being provided at present. And what the CCPC really highlights in this is that there is a lack of data and information there. I suppose the Price Monitoring Group is helping to establish some of that data. The CCPC did carry out a survey. I think of that it highlighted the fact that I think just 6% of people surveyed said that the price was an issue for them. But this is a complex area. The priority is to try and reduce the amount of waste that's going into black bins, to minimise the amount of plastic that is being generated, and that plastic is being recycled where it is being generated.
Minister, I'm fully in agreement with you in terms of the recycling, but your answer is sort of interesting, because the first thing you do is you reveal that only a small number of people change from one supplier to another. That, in my view, indicates a lack of competition in the market. It also indicates a lack of transparency. Go onto the websites of various waste management companies in Dublin and try and actually work out what moving would mean, what it would be in cost terms, and it's very, very difficult for householders to determine. And I believe, Minister, you have a role. And more importantly, you clearly indicated from the CCPC report that when people did change, the savings were minimal. And if anything, that, in my view, is like a cartel or type operation, where there is a closeness in terms of the pricing structures rather than a competition. And as this develops in terms of future recycling, and I'm fully supportive of moving away from landfill and all of that, but I don't see the competition in the market, and consumers deserve to be protected, and I'm concerned that there is a lack of protection from them, and your last answer indicated that.
Thanks as always for your cooperation.
The CCPC did not find a cartel in the market. And they have said that there isn't price gouging in the market. You make the point that the lack of competition is the reason that people aren't switching. But if you take electricity supplies, people can save €200 to €300 by switching, and yet a large cohort of the population are not doing that. So even when the savings are there, people are not moving. And colleagues will tell me the same thing is happening in relation to financial services, in relation to mortgages, where people can save a significant amount of money and yet are not doing so. So there is a certain inertia in Ireland of switching from one operator to the other. In fact, the research that was published by the CCPC also highlighted that there's very mixed views on whether there should be competition within the market, which is 2 or 3 trucks driving down a single road, or competition for the market, where an operator bids for exclusive access to a particular part of the market. So there's very mixed views on that as well.